When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Review-A-Wai with John Pollock and Ting, the A-team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Review-A-Wai for Monday night, download it Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review-A-Wai for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello and welcome to Review-A-Wai. I am John Pollock alongside the returning Ting. Welcome back, Mr. Ting.
Thank you.
We've got a packed edition of the show. As usual, we're going to be running through Raw, and a little later on in the show, we are going to have a preview of the interview that I got to conduct on Monday with Bret the Hitman Hart, a very outspoken Bret the Hitman Hart. He was in Toronto on Monday on behalf of March of Dimes Canada. Myself and Wai, we went out, did an interview with Bret Hart. The interview will be airing this Sunday on Live Audio Wrestling, and we'll have a small tease of that interview a little later on. But a very busy show, Mr. Ting, and I want to dive right into things. You were not here last week, and we always miss you when you're not here. Jimmy Corderas, he did a fantastic job last week, but the people missed you, and never was it more evident than tonight in Tampa, Florida, a Review-A-Wai hotbed. Clearly, a Live Audio Wrestling hotbed.
Yes.
Man, the people demanded Ting return.
It was more like one person.
Two people.
Two people, max. Two people max who, God bless them, decided to do this the whole show. Not the whole show, but for lengthy periods throughout the show. And I get a real kick out of this every single time. But thank you very much to the two people who, at this point, I still don't know who you are.
Oh, it was a lot of fun seeing these signs. Listen, it's always fun when you see a Ting sign in the crowd. Mm-hmm. But, man, when I saw the WH Park sign,
yes,
that was just, to me, that was one of, in terms of work-related, this was a highlight for me of the year, it was, seeing a WH Park sign on Raw.
It was a real highlight.
About his fashion as well. Yeah, it was incredible.
It was a real highlight for me as well. It might be the best Law-related sign I've ever seen.
Oh, I took the photo. Yeah. The New Day with the Ting sign and the WH Park sign.
Yeah.
That was just incredible.
It is the best. Yes.
So whoever did it, congratulations.
Yes.
You kept us entertained for 3 hours.
Yep. You made this Raw watchable. Very watchable.
So lots to talk about for this particular Raw. They were coming off the last week's show, which was the night after SummerSlam. Not a great number they did, and you saw throughout the weekend promoting more than usual, and right off the top, they plugged the Beat the Clock, they plugged Ambrose against Strowman, and the New Day against the Dudley Boys. Very out of character of the WWE to lay out so much in advance. I think with the idea, foreign concept, if we promote it, there's a reason for people to stick around. So we'll see how this does in comparison to last week, which was certainly a disappointment ratings-wise. Sting came out to start the show in full face paint this week. No problems with the upper region.
No
completely covered. And his T-shirt, billed as a 6-time WCW champion. I will say, I thought a very silent reaction to this man coming out. And this was a crowd that, they didn't get into too much on this particular show. I don't know if it was just what they were watching or if this was just a crowd in general, but I thought it certainly didn't scream superstar when Sting came out to me, just with the reaction he had. He came out and he says that Triple H and Sting, they pushed each other to the limit at WrestleMania, and he will always have respect for Triple H, which... awesome job, because just drew an enormous amount of boos, which is really getting this guy set for a main event title match as your babyface. Says Rollins is really good, but he is no Triple H, which begs the question why Triple H isn't wrestling for the championship. He mentions Rollins comparing himself to the likes of Bruno Sammartino, Andre the Giant, and Ultimate Warrior, but there's one title that has eluded Sting, and that is the WWE title. And he's going to prove that Seth Rollins is not half the man that Triple H is. As Sid was just scratching his head. Where's the insult? And Rollins is a little boy living in his world.
The whole promo was meant to put over Triple H and how Seth Rollins can never measure up to Triple H. And I understand that's the storyline of the show. That's sort of the Seth Rollins character arc at the moment.
That's not your main event.
But it's just so weird to have your babyface put over the heel authority member like that. And it was also a promo that felt very much full of WWE speak. It felt like, this was the company putting words into Sting's mouth to say, like here, the putting over of Triple H, and also listing, again, the list of WWE legends, which they've really been trying to hammer home as the three right now, Andre the Giant, Bruno Sammartino, and Ultimate Warrior. Basically,
they're Mount Rushmore now.
They're Mount Rushmore, wiping out any mention of Hulk Hogan, just doing making a real effort.
Austin Rock don't make they don't have statues.
I guess not. Just making a real effort to rewrite that history. And who would have thought 10 years ago Bruno and Warrior would be a part of that list and Hogan wouldn't, right? But it's this whole promo just kind of felt really weird to me. I thought Sting's delivery was fine, but just the way it was scripted felt so.
This whole show, the match you want to see at the end of this is Rollins and Hunter. And I'm going to do a pretty bad job to try and justify this, but I wonder if their idea was, listen, Hunter beat Sting at WrestleMania. That's a big flaw in this story where Sting is now walking into a title shot. We know Rollins and Hunter is always going to be on the back burner of something we want to tease. And by establishing that Hunter is above Rollins, it can justify Sting losing to him and getting this title shot, despite that terribly negating your title and essentially making this match, what are they fighting for here?
Second place.
Triple H is God, and they're going to fight for the little rinky-dink title. Mm-hmm. Then we go backstage, and Rollins is with Stephanie in the office, upset at Sting, and Stephanie says that a win over Sting will cement his legacy, and Rollins goes on to brag about the year he has had and that he's better than anyone. And Stephanie agrees with Sting that Rollins is not half the man that Hunter is, and it takes a lifetime to become a legend. Rollins notes that Hunter doesn't have a statue, and then Stephanie challenges Rollins to go get his statue from Sting. I didn't like any of this. Whatever they did to get your interest in this match for Night of Champions, I thought this was the Triple H show, and the guy wasn't even on the program. He was presented tonight as above anything else that these dorks are fighting over, this being the title belt. And Hunter's beaten Sting, and he's better than Rollins, so they're going to fight. But this, I don't know. I don't know what the hell this was.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, I feel like, they made a lot of improvements with Seth Rollins over the past several months.
I thought tonight was 3 steps back.
Giving him a lot of strong wins, and, he's been actually very, very improved, I think, as well in his promos. But I'm not a fan of the way they're building the storyline at all. I feel like if you have Sting versus Seth Rollins, there's so many different ways you could build that match and justify that match without having to go the route of somehow having Triple H hang above both of them.
This show should happen the night after a pay-per-view when your next one is Rollins and Hunter.
Maybe.
When that is the match you are ready to present. Yeah. Then that should be that you're not at Hunter's level and you have to beat him. But that's not the match you're selling for the next 3 weeks. Very, very bizarre. Each week on Review-A-Wai, pay attention for the secret question. You can tweet the answer at Law Radio every week for your chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees.
Next week on Impact Wrestling, Global Force has thrown down the gauntlet, but the superstars of TNA Wrestling are ready to defend their turf. Plus, Matt Hardy gets one more opportunity to capture the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from Ethan Carter III. But if the champ wins, then the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy must become EC3's personal assistant. Next week on Impact Wrestling.
Dolph and Lana are showing on Instagram kissing at Disney World, and a post from Lana referring to Dolph as her boo, which Michael Cole had to read. these two would have quite the night. It started, I wrote Dolph Ziggler versus Lana here, but it was Dolph Ziggler versus Rusev in a rematch from SummerSlam. This match went approximately 59 minutes. It was a very lengthy match. There was a bear hug applied by Rusev. Then he missed a splash in the corner. Ziggler came back with a jumping DDT. Rusev at one point hit that big somersault splash onto Ziggler. Unlike SummerSlam, used the mat to land on instead of Ziggler's ribs. Ziggler then catches him with a super kick, gets a near fall. They tease a count out with both getting back in. Rusev did the old Christian tantrum spot at one point. I hope that doesn't catch on for this guy. Kicks Ziggler in the spine, but then Ziggler avoids the accolade, hits a zigzag from behind, has the match won when Summer Rae runs in for the DQ, leading to Lana tackling Summer, kicks Summer in the face, and then Ziggler and Lana leave and make out on the ramp.
It's like they're really trying to actively make us hate this pairing of Lana and Ziggler. Like, they are very much a classic heel coupling. Just obnoxiously good-looking, just
each other's boo.
Denim and just the constant making out. Like, I felt more annoyed by this than Rusev is probably supposed to be. And I really dislike Lana's downgrading as into this generic babyface role that she's had to play now. She went from being someone with incredible personality as a heel manager, and now she's basically the arm candy who rarely speaks.
So Ziggler and Lana are backstage, and Renee comes up to congratulate Ziggler on his win by disqualification. This would be the equivalent of Renee going up to Max Holloway and congratulating him after defeating Charles Oliveira.
That happened.
But Dolph at least does say this is not the way he wants to win and tells Summer to stay out of her matches and has to go hit the shower. A keynote. And then Renee decides to just look at the camera and start previewing the rest of the show while Summer sneaks into Dolph Ziggler's locker room.
Uh-huh.
It would have very much behooved Lana to have watched this, because later there would be a story contradicting what we saw right in front of us of Summer sneaking into Dolph's locker room and not being asked in.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe she asked him. He was asked. Anyway, doesn't matter.
The Bellas and Alicia Fox are in the ring for the start of the Beat the Clock Challenge. What a memorable series of matches these were on Monday night. The winner will get a match against Nikki Bella at Night of Champions. And right as they said this, I thought they're out of their goddamn minds if the winner of this is going to get a title match after the title reign is broken. But cooler heads prevailed, and then Nikki Bella introduced the Bellatron, a countdown clock which will expire in 2 weeks' time, where she will then become the longest reigning Divas champion.
I love this. I love the idea. I love the name of the Bellatron. It's only too bad that they didn't take advantage of this thing sooner, because if only this this whole thing leading up to the AJ reign and beating that, I think it could have made for some incredible drama in her title defenses. You could have defended this thing multiple times and had PCB, had whoever attempt to stop this thing in the weeks leading up to it. But now you're only left with 2 weeks. How many matches are you going to get out of this? You know, you can't really take advantage of it.
If I'm going to nitpick, as a man that tries to have times be accurate, this is going to expire on that Monday at midnight, when Nikki Bella clearly did not win this title at midnight. So if we're going to break this down to minutes and seconds, I mean, she won this at a Survivor Series, I would imagine in the first hour.
Okay.
But I guess that won't play into...
Are you taking into account daylight savings?
Oh, that's a great point. But I mean, since that time
zones?
I mean, we would have switched...
Let's not waste time.
We would have sprung ahead already since the title reign, because it would have been in November after Fall Back.
But the point remains, I think they should have done this a lot sooner than 2 weeks out.
Listen, I could probably give you a list of 30 things that they screwed up tonight of how this could have been so much better. We'll see what they do. But our first match was Becky Lynch against Alicia Fox. So Team PCB are all going to have matches tonight, and whoever wins quickest gets the title match. Michael Cole at one point brought up the fact that Team Bad is not involved in these matches because they lost at SummerSlam, and Stephanie did a promo at SummerSlam stating that the winner will be granted something, and this was that something. I like the fact that there was a logical reason why only PCB were eligible for this title match.
But then why was Sasha in a match?
They were there they were not eligible to get the title shot. They were just there to essentially prevent. They were just there to prevent the other. That's how they do the beat the clock always, where it's just one person is alive in this tournament. Anyway, all the women got insert promos. The first was Becky Lynch, who said the B in PCB can be a real B when she has to be. No buzz for this woman on the main roster.
I thought it was maybe one of her better, speaking chances on Raw.
Yeah, what a cavalcade of promos she has had. Yeah. Becky Lynch and Alicia Fox start things off. Lynch hit a series of clotheslines. Byron referred to JBL as both a negative Nancy and a Debbie Downer during this particular match. There was a roll-up by Fox that Lynch kicked out of and into the disarmer and got the submission at 3 minutes and 21 seconds as our time to beat.
I thought the match was actually pretty good. Certainly of the 3 women's matches, this was obviously
good. This was double the time of the others.
Given the most time. But, to win this crowd over, they need to do better than good. They need to do something extra impressive and unexpected. And for the women, I've found typically in the past, that's either, involves something remarkable like a big bump or some big, weapon spot that usually the ladies don't really do to really capture the audience's attention. And it hasn't really been evident in any of these matches that we've seen on Raw.
Rich Brennan, who is now the new voice of SmackDown, was backstage with Ryback, who has a match with The Big Show tonight. He did some horrible impressions of The Big Show and Miz to make fun of them. And he went through all these obstacles that have not been able to keep the big guy down, but tonight is his biggest obstacle. And he gets interrupted as Summer Rae is seen running down the hallway as Ziggler then comes out of the locker room with his towel, and we nearly see everything of Dolph Ziggler. Mm-hmm. What I want to know is that there was how much time in between here that Summer was in Dolph's locker room. This took a long time for Dolph to realize Summer was in there.
She was waiting for him to get out of the shower.
I guess that makes sense then. Yeah. Do you think that wouldn't you have like the kind of glass that you would be able to notice a human body?
I don't know what type of showers they have in this Tampa, Florida arena.
It could be a very elaborate shower setup.
Why does Dolph Ziggler?
But it's his personal room. You wouldn't think it's too spacious.
Why would Dolph Ziggler get his own personal room?
That's a great question. You would think he would have to shower with all the other boys.
Anyway, this I no pun intended. I felt like this feud was really running out of steam. And
that's worse than any idea.
I didn't mean to do that, but they really needed to do something different to spice this thing up because it's weird. I actually liked this thing a lot more before Dolph jumped back in. The moment Dolph jumped back in, I completely lost my interest again, and I think they needed to do something to kind of refreshen the feud. I suppose this was it. A sex scandal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
Catch daily podcasts from the Live Audio Wrestling family up at FightNetwork.com, subscribe on iTunes, or listen on the free Stitcher app. Ryback and Big Show had a match for the Intercontinental title. The Miz was on commentary. There was this painful back and forth with Michael Cole joking that Miley Cyrus was wearing his outfit at the VMAs last night. The Big Show hit his final cut, which was then led into a please retire chance with Big Show telling the audience to find someone to retire him.
He actually picks up the mic mid-match and tells the audience to find someone to retire him, and that actually set up a near fall, which I actually didn't mind. Like it's a sort of a unique spin on the distraction finish when you have the crowd doing the distracting.
Yeah, that's something they haven't really exploited enough. Yeah. Ryback went for a body slam with Show landing on top, It's all Big Show until Ryback hits a shoulder tackle. There was a Thez press, goes for a slam into a choke slam. They did a number of near falls with the meat hook attempt by Ryback getting cut off first by a choke slam, then by a spear. And then finally, Miz got on the apron, distracted the Big Show, allowing Ryback to hit the shell shock and pin him at 7 minutes, 19 seconds, as Lillian Garcia announced the winner of the match and still Intercontinental Champion, the Ryback.
The Ryback.
Good enough catch, Fire.
It should be his name. It's a way better name.
The Ryback.
The Ryback.
Wow.
I thought the match was fine, maybe even more
I thought this was better than expected.
above expectations for these two, but hopefully with this, the feud is done. I really don't think either man will achieve more than what they already have in this pairing. And it's really hard to believe that, on Review-A-Wai this week, we're going to review a show featuring the Big Show from 20 years ago.
Back when he was one of those people in the crowd filming matches.
Kinda.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
Then we have Brie, Bella, and Charlotte in the next Beat the Clock challenge. Charlotte's promo. I want this. I was born for this. And I'll do it with a little bit of flair.
And then?
Woo.
She didn't do it like that. It would have been better if she did it like that. Listen, I thought Charlotte, we got to see promos from all three members of PCB. I thought Charlotte actually did all right. This was a pre-tape. But she still looks pretty unnatural and uncomfortable, even in front of the camera. And that woo was just so forced and very awkward sounding. I think it's just a case of her not having enough experience and maybe needing more time to practice and finding her own voice. And she certainly, I know when you start off as sort of the second generation wrestler, you kind of have to do your parents' catchphrases. But she's not her dad. She should really try to make it her own. And this woo sounded awful.
Yeah, this match, not much to speak of. Brie was just running to try and kill time. Charlotte got knocked down on the floor, and then Brie was seated in the ring. And as Michael Cole is plugging the WWE on Snapchat, which just sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, Charlotte hit the natural selection, unidentified by the announcers, and Charlotte got the win at 1:40 to set the new time.
This was a minute-long match, and somehow there were screw-ups even in this. Brie missed some boot to the gut. I mean, I just think that, maybe it's the Bellas, maybe it's just a case of bad chemistry, but I just, something is wrong with these matches, and, it's just weird that we go from maybe the best women's match we've ever seen one day in Sasha versus Bayley to just 2 weeks worth of uninspired women's matches on the main
I think it's been more weeks than that.
Oh, yeah.
These matches are just...
It's weird.
I didn't know what tonight was supposed to accomplish with these minute matches. They recapped the Dudleys returning last week and attacking the New Day. Renee is with the Dudleys. They're here for two reasons: to put everyone through a table and for the WWE Tag titles. They're pushing them as 9-time WWE Tag Champions and going for their 10th titles. And
I think the Dudleys are, now that I see them, 2 weeks in, I think they're a tremendous fit for this division. And namely because it's a tag division that lacks a lot of star power, with the New Day sort of being the only, you could say... it's really the only team that I would say has a serious following. To have the Dudleys in there is great. What also helps is the fact that Devon and Bubba, they still look as young, if not younger, in the case of Bubba Ray, who's gotten into tremendous shape in the time that he's been away, and his promo ability has gotten that much better too.
Yep. It's just jarring that they go from whatever it was, 24-time tag team champions in one promotion to now they're 9. All those.
Are they counting the? Are they not counting the WCW?
They're not counting WCW.
Or ECW
no ECW, just WWE tag titles. And they say the New Day is sitting at the head of the table. They will put them through that table. This Wednesday on Review-A-Wai, Wai Ting and I are going to review the October 21st edition of WCW Monday Nitro, featuring the first appearance of Sting as the Crow character as WCW headed into Halloween Havoc 96. Cesaro and Kevin Owens, they had a lengthy match. There was a delayed vertical, and as Cesaro was hitting this, he starts punching Owens in the gut.
And then Cesaro starts punching back.
Yeah.
It was like the first Fry Takayama spot I've ever seen in a delayed vertical suplex pose.
Owens drops him on the edge of the apron. JBL compares this to Eddie Graham and Boris Malenko at the Fort Homer Hesterly Armory.
Wow.
How
many people got that reference, you think?
I would think a handful of especially the Florida natives maybe watching. Owens hit a cannonball into the corner, reverse neck breaker. A lot of good stuff here. Cesaro went for the neutralizer. It got avoided. And then he went for the Cesaro swing. That was blocked, and Owens hits him with a super kick. Looks at Michael Cole and yells, "Watch this, you little jerk," as he misses the cannonball in the corner.
That's great.
This made me think of Uncle Frank in Home Alone as Kevin McAllister walks in on him on the shower.
Oh.
Which was a theme
just like tonight.
on tonight's Raw.
Yeah.
They slapped one another with Owens starting it and Cesaro responding it. Cesaro blocked a tornado DDT, dropped Owens onto his chest and applied a crossface and then cut off his arm, not literally, but so he couldn't get the rope break and had to use his leg. Then he spun over the ropes to the outside of the apron, tried for a vertical suplex to the floor, which Owens blocked, snapped Cesaro's neck on the top rope, and then Cesaro gets sent off the apron into the announce table, made it look really good, landing with his ribs into the side of the table. And back in the ring, Cesaro goes for the swing, and he can't hit it because of his ribs, which he sells. Owens kicks the ribs, pop-up powerbomb, and gets the win. I really like this, how this table spot worked into the finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously match of the night by far.
No competition, by the way, either.
Yeah, this was a night of a lot of SummerSlam rematches and a lot of pairings I'm actually already kind of sick of. But this is a match I feel like I'm not even near sick of yet. And I think it's largely because both guys are really good. Their wrestling is different and creative enough to be interesting every single week. And I also don't think that they're necessarily overexposed. If anything, I think they're still underexposed right now.
Ziggler is with Lana in the back, and Lana is very upset. And Summer walked in, Dolph explains, and immediately he grabbed his towel and chased Summer out. And then Lana said, "Does that mean that she saw you naked?" And Dolph said, "But nothing happened." But the big glaring fact is that Summer Rae saw Dolph Ziggler's penis. And Lana just cannot live with the fact that her man's dick has been seen by another woman's eyes.
Wow.
And fans at home are cheering that these two are breaking up.
Yeah, I thought it was so stupid and trashy. I was laughing throughout this whole thing, and I could only assume that this was done for that effect, for comedy.
What are the odds that they were plugging Lana's Instagram? What are the chances Summer took a photo and posts it next week in storyline?
It should really be Snapchat.
If you want to push your new social media outlet, maybe. Yeah. And you can say on TV it was up there and then now it's gone. You can't see it, but Dolph's penis was out there.
Yes.
This is where they could go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they need something, and I suppose this is the next step. This is the next step in trying to get these guys over as professional wrestling superstars.
This is the goal.
Yeah.
The Wyatt family is out, and Bray thanks Sister Abigail for giving him the greatest gift, the black sheep, Braun Strowman, and says men have predicted when the end of the world will be, and after tonight, there will be no time for guessing. It's ending tonight, apparently, according to Bray Wyatt. So we have...
Oh, we're dead.
It's after midnight. We're fine. Braun unmasks to show the face of destruction, and then...
This guy looks really goofy. Like, he looks like a cross...
I think of the guy in the... Because he was in the Rosebuds for a while, and that's... No. I think of that goofy face.
He looks exactly like a cross between Snitsky and...
he looks very much like Snitsky.
Eli Cottonwood.
Oh, boy.
The mustache guy?
Yeah, the mustache guy.
Yeah.
Listen, I think they're doing a great job, though, with Braun Strowman. They gave him the mic, and, dude, I looked back, and I shielded my face. I was like, oh, God, don't let this guy talk. And he said, this isn't the beginning, it's the end. The apocalypse. And that was it.
He's fine.
He's got a doomsday proclamation.
Yeah.
Then I cringed more because it was Dean Ambrose and Braun Strowman in a singles match. For some reason, I thought they had announced Ambrose and Harper off the top, but no, it's Ambrose and Strowman. This was ballsy to put this guy on live television in a singles match, and this was not a minute and 40 seconds like the Divas.
No.
Reigns is in the corner of Ambrose, and Strowman just tossed Dean around. He's beating him down, sent him to the floor with a boot, tosses him into the barricade. The announcers are just putting over his size. Sends Dean into Reigns, and then he attacks Reigns. Reigns comes back and attacks Strowman for the DQ. And then Reigns is thrown into the barricade. Dean onto the announce desk. Reigns is then tossed into the timekeeper area. Dean jumps onto the back of Strowman with a sleeper and is thrown off. Reigns is then put back into the ring. He applies the arm triangle. No-sells a chair shot from Ambrose, and then Harper lays him out with a super kick, puts Reigns in the arm triangle, and then finally Wyatt hits the Sister Abigail to Reigns as the Wyatt family stands tall. 2 weeks in, I think they've done a really good job with Braun Strowman as this monster.
I think they've done a decent job. I can't say I'm a fan of the selection of this person for this role, because I just don't think he's ready yet. And I think you have far more better options on the NXT roster to call up than this guy. I just don't see much in him in the 2 weeks that I've seen him, besides his size. His in-ring obviously is very basic and limited on this show. His promo doesn't appear to be anything special, and he doesn't even seem to...
I don't think he should have talked.
He doesn't even seem to display that much charisma in what he's doing. I just think, and that standing arm triangle finish I just hate. I thought it was stupid when Sam Shaw did it. I think it's stupid looking now. I don't know why you can't just ground the guy, Like Brock Lesnar beat Shane Carwin with the arm triangle.
I like the visual of him standing and taking the guy off his feet.
To me, it just looks silly, especially the fact because he doesn't even hold it enough time for the guy to actually choke out. He almost does it like it's a death touch right now, which just looks silly to me.
He should legit choke these guys out.
It should at least look
the finish over.
It should at least look more convincing in an era where in 2015 where people are more familiar with the concepts of.
He should have gone down to Brazil over the weekend and gone into the ADCCs.
He should have done something to make this more believable, because I'm not really buying it right now.
This Sunday night on Live Audio Wrestling, you are not going to want to miss an explosive interview with Bret the Hitman Hart, chatting numerous topics, including the upcoming DVD documentary on Owen Hart. It's this Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Time at liveaudiowrestling.com. Renee is with Rollins, who cuts a promo on Sting, telling him to get a WWE Network subscription to see what he's done. Says he is the first to hold both the WWE and U.S. titles at the same time, unlike Triple H, and he is the man now. Final Beat the Clock challenge match, Paige and Sasha Banks. I don't think there's anything stupider than a match where they tell you, at most, this will go a minute and 40 seconds.
It's unfortunate because of all the pairings, Paige and Sasha is the one that was the most promising. And off the bat, you're told you're not getting more than a minute and 40 seconds of this.
Paige had her promo, and I'm just tired about the same line. This is not about high heels and high school drama. And this is the first step of taking back her house tonight. Very quick pin attempts. At least there was urgency from these two, especially from Paige. Running knee to Banks for a 2. The crowd is chanting here. Catches Banks and then hits the Rampage, but Tamina and Naomi pull her to the floor. Paige gets her back into the ring, is going for the PTO as time expires. This was too short to be anything. And they had this subtle shot of Charlotte with a smirk. So the turn is already coming. And I thought it was subtle, but then they went right back to her again to make sure it hits you over the head that Charlotte was smiling here, that Paige failed. As Becky and Charlotte then went to console Paige, and the Bellas come out and they showed the countdown clock.
Yeah.
Everything about this beat the clock thing I thought was so ineffective.
It was very promising when I heard about it.
They've got a great opportunity for this thing in 2 weeks. And for all the people who thought these divas should have come up and beat Nikki right away, I disagree. I think her holding this to this Raw in 2 weeks is a golden opportunity to do something great. Had you done a series of great matches and you had a viable contender And for me, it would have been Sasha. And next week is all building up to this match. And in 2 weeks, it's the main event on Raw. And you do the title change after a big match. You know you're not going to get anything close to that.
No. It's also tough because it's...
Technically, this match is not even in 2 weeks. They've said it is at Night of Champions. So to set this up for the Monday, they're going to have to do that next week.
It's also tough because you have Nikki Bella holding that championship, and you're not going to get the quality that you might have seen, on NXT with Nikki Bella.
I think you can get a more than passable match with Nikki Bella.
Passable, but good, I don't know. This match...
They send them out on the road, and they practice that match the next 2 weeks at the house shows. I guarantee you they will have a passable 12-minute match on Raw.
She's been practicing for 10 years.
Not with the specific person to put your match together.
These girls just, I thought Paige was really damn sloppy here, and, you can't really blame her. You can blame her because she was rushed, but despite being rushed, I just felt it was not good. Another disappointing week for the girls, and it's sad because I think everybody's cheering them on. Everybody wants them to convert this mainstream crowd into the level of appreciation that NXT crowd shows. But week after week, all these matches have just been underwhelming, and I don't think the solution is that difficult. You just put two of the most capable workers on TV in a good lengthy match, and it should work out. But we haven't had that yet.
If I see one more tweet from one of these women who complain about the crowd not accepting change and wanting change but reacting differently, look at what is being presented. Like, what utter garbage that we got on this particular show. Who wants this? This is the same old. That's it. Like, there is nothing here. Why don't you tweet WWE and get upset at them for the way that these women are presented every single week since they've been called up? I think it's just getting worse and worse. And this beat the clock thing, what a waste of time, literally. Renee is with Lana. They show an interview during the commercial break where Renee interviews Summer Rae, who gives a blow-by-blow of walking into Dolph's locker room after Dolph invited her in, and assumes that he wanted to bury the hatchet. And then he started taking his clothes off, and she became mesmerized. And then she starts describing his body and says Dolph was trying to seduce her, and the only reason she left was because of Rusev and her loyalty to him. But she will never forget the image of Dolph naked in front of her. And we cut back to Lana, who is about to cry, and walks off without speaking to Renee. Her heart is broken.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Dolph's body?
No, not really.
Well, the New Day come out. They call the Dudleys a menace to society. Xavier Woods' hair is all straightened out.
Yeah, I love it. Great
This
look.
is a great look for this man. Yeah. This is where we got the photo of the year involving W.H. Park and Wai Ting. And then they went through all these different tables. The Thanksgiving table, the periodic table, times tables. Another home run from these three. Mm-hmm. And they bring out a brand new table with bubble wrap on it, calling it the last table on Earth. And then they start a Save the Tables chant. This was great.
Yeah.
Primetime players were on commentary, and we had Kofi and Big E against the Dudley boys. Titus says they want to know who did Xavier Woods' hair. Right as Devon tags Bubba Ray, and Michael Cole says, and hair is Bubba Ray. To silence. God, what a nerd. The Dudleys then tossed them over the top to the floor, clearing the ring. They came back from break. JBL notes that Edge and Christian and the Hardys only held the tag titles 6 or 7 times each. The Dudleys had them 9 times. Not some trivial number like 6 or 7. They got the heat on Devon for a long, long time. Eventually, he caught Kofi with a strike off the top, tagged in Bubba, who fired up. Kofi stopped the what's up spot. There was a 3D to Kofi, and Devon got the pin. And then they got the bubble wrap table, but they pulled Big E to the floor to save him. And I guess my complaint now is that they're going to make this table spot really mean something. I wish they didn't do the table last week and put Woods through it. I think they could have got away with the return and the 3D, and you saved that first table break.
Yep, definitely. You could have done that. But I think they could still make this work if by presenting this table as the special table. And I'd like to see them when they bubble wrapped it. I thought they would kind of do something special to it. It kind of reminds me all of the Dixie Carter table spot back in TNA when Bubba Ray was doing all that. Wrote Dixie on the table. I loved that, and I think they could do the same thing here. Keep this one table, maybe decorate it, show that it's somewhat different. And by the time you build up to that big spot of people, these guys breaking through that table, I think it'll be huge.
Maybe he's got that same table and he can just get rid of the D, the I.
It's already broken.
IE, and write Xavier.
What?
I was just trying to make a joke. They have an X.
Yes.
Ziggler and Lana will be on Miz TV on SmackDown. Seth Rollins is out for the final segment. He had no problem with Sting until he took his statue last week, which is now, I think, superseded the WWE title. It's the statue that they're fighting over. And says now it's obvious why WCW went out of business. He's here to call Sting out, and he wants Sting to take back the comment about Hunter being better, and says he's just as good as Hunter and one day maybe better, and wants his statue. Stephanie comes out and says, shut up about Triple H. Stop talking about him. And Rollins says it's a double standard because back in the Evolution days, if anyone compared Hunter to Ric Flair, Hunter would have lost his mind over that. Stephanie says he's being manipulated by Sting and puts over all his accomplishments and calls him the man. Then Cena comes out. He also puts over Rollins in the ring, but says he's the biggest idiot he's ever met for thinking the Authority are friends with him, compares him to other flavors of the month like Orton, Batista, and Kane. And then he brings up the fact that the Authority were the ones to note all the titles are on the line at Night of Champions, and he has a rematch clause for the U.S. title. He's cashing it in at Night of Champions, and Stephanie has to reluctantly allow this match to happen, letting down Rollins. So we're going to get 2 matches with Seth Rollins at Night of Champions with Sting and Cena. And Sting came out at the end, stood at the top of the ramp with Cena, with Rollins in the ring holding up his 2 titles to end the show.
I like the idea of seeing 2 Seth Rollins matches. I think it's a interesting concept for a pay-per-view. And if anything, just from a work rate standpoint, I'm very excited to see 2 Seth Rollins matches at this pay-per-view. I think he's just having an incredible year, and by the end of the year, he's really gunning for that Performer of the Year award. And I think this is a pay-per-view where he'll really get to showcase that. I could see him losing the U.S. and keeping the world title.
Yes.
Sure.
Do you think that Rollins will get the better match out of Sting or Okada out of Tenryu later this year?
I didn't see that one.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen.
Who's going to have the better match?
It's going to be a tough one with
I think
Tenryu.
Okada.
Yeah. Interact 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with Law Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and join the discussion at lawradio.proboards.com.
Next week on Impact Wrestling, Global Force has thrown down the gauntlet, but the superstars of TNA Wrestling are ready to defend their turf. Plus, Matt Hardy gets one more opportunity to capture the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from Ethan Carter III. But if the champ wins, then the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy must become EC3's personal assistant. Next week on Impact Wrestling.
All right, before we get out of here, as we mentioned on Monday, got a chance to catch up with Bret Hart, who is here on behalf of March of Dimes Canada. And recently, the Kliq DVD came out, and we started talking about the infamous group and Bret Hart's thoughts on the Kliq.
Recently, the WWE, they just put out a DVD collection on the Kliq, and they're very much a group now that is glorified all these years later. But you were there in the trenches, having to deal with this on a daily basis, and it appears you were the wrestler's wrestler that seemed to really stand up, and this was a very divisive group at that time, who today, I mean, they're largely praised.
Praised by who? Triple H?
I think a lot of the audience, just looks at it at a time when they don't know all the intricate details of what went on at that time.
Literally a cancer in the dressing room, all of them, and I think they're all. I don't doubt that Shawn Michaels is sorry for a lot of that kind of behavior. Kevin Nash was a great wrestler and a good guy, but I don't think he can be that proud of that association. It was a cancerous environment in the dressing room with those guys, and they certainly did more negative than positive harm to the business. Scott Hall, all you have to do is look at him. He's a train wreck with his own life, and he was a malcontent, or a guy that, when you were close to him long enough, you started to feel the same way he did. You just felt so self-destructive and unhappy with your life and your job and everything. He was a guy that was infectious with his bad sort of moods and bad unhappiness in his own life that would spread to all the other wrestlers. And I'm glad I'm not remembered for that kind of stuff. I remembered. I think if you talk to different wrestlers from that era, the Savio Vegas and the those kind of wrestlers that were on my cards, they're all pretty proud of how I conducted myself and how I related to them, and how I may have been the top guy, but I didn't act like a superstar, not to my friends and not to my peers.
So that was Bret the Hitman Hart, a little tease of our interview for this Sunday night. We will be airing it over 2 parts on Live Audio Wrestling. Lots of different topics covered with Bret Hart. Very, very outspoken Bret Hart this Sunday. 11 p.m. Eastern, you can catch the full interview.
I'll be doing that.
All right. Well, you heard it once, so you'll want to check it out a second time. Right. Before we get out of here, Way, we are going to be back on Wednesday. What have you picked for us to review on Wednesday?
This week, we will be talking about the October 21st, 1996 edition of WCW Nitro, which you can find on the WWE Network if you do subscribe to that, or other means. But I won't tell you about that. But
a legendary edition of Nitro from Mankato, Minnesota.
Yeah, honestly, Sting returned last week. I typed in Sting returns in my Google search, and this episode popped up. So this was one of Sting's returns. Actually, the debut of his black and white gimmick. So you guys can check that out.
Wow. It'll be a fun Nitro to go back and watch.
It will be.
Was it a chore for you to watch?
It was quick enough that it wasn't, but by the end of it, it was a bit of a weird watch.
Well, if this was a tough one to get through, Nikki's countdown clock gave me a great idea for something we could review maybe next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe a specific debut.
Gotcha.
All right, that is going to wrap things up. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this week's edition of Review-A-Wai. You can catch this show every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern here on Fight Network. We will be back with Review-A-Wai Wednesday morning at liveaudiowrestling.com, and Bret the Hitman Hart joining us on the Law this Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. For Wai Ting, Mr. Tampa himself, I am John Pollock, and we'll chat with you next time on Review-A-Wai.